Well, good afternoon and welcome to our Alumni Insights webinar featuring Mary Maloney, a graduate of the McAnulty College and Graduate School of Liberal Arts. I'm Sarah Speary, the AVP of Alumni Engagement, and I'm excited to have you join us to learn more about how to excavate your brand genius. Before I begin the introduction of our presenter, I'd like to take a moment to thank my colleague and alumna, Audrey Tierney, Director of Alumni Programming, for arranging for this program. Audrey will be managing the technical aspect of the webinar. Throughout the presentation, your microphones will be muted, but you're welcome to submit questions or comments through the chat feature found on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Mary actually welcomes that, so she hopes you'll interact. Pre-submitted questions and those received through the chat will be addressed time permitting following Mary's presentation. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter. Mary Maloney is a brand strategist specializing in the healthcare industry. Serving as a CEO and Chief Marketing Officer, she has led repositioning, messaging, and branding initiatives on both the client and agency side for global and iconic brands, including Mercy Health System, Penn Medicine, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Intuit, Centene, and the Center for Creative Leadership Healthcare Division. She sold her first business at age 31. As principal for Revealing Genius LLC, she now works with individual leaders using a proprietary process to effectively communicate their brand story and their why so that they rapidly fulfill their most desired career goals. Originally from Pennsylvania, she currently resides in Tampa, Florida. Her education includes Duquesne University, Villanova University, and the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Please welcome our speaker, Mary Maloney. Mary, the program's yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, to Excavate Your Brand Genius. And before we get started, I wanted to do a little round of applause for Ms. Sarah Sperry and also for Ms. Audrey Tierney, fellow alums from Duquesne, who have been just so well organized in pulling this webinar series together. So thank you so much for the invitation. I feel honored and privileged to have the opportunity to speak today. So we're going to dive right in. And what I'd really love for you to do in the next 45 minutes or so is to give yourself the gift of time to think only about yourself and only about your brand. Because what Sarah and Audrey and I would love for you to take away from this is to experience a shift in the way you think about your personal brand. And we invite you to think about how are you positioning yourself with purpose, how are you messaging with conviction, and what are you doing in terms of your brand to serve? And I believe that each of us has a unique calling to contribute that cannot be duplicated. I call it your brand genius. So just in curiosity, Sarah and Audrey and I were talking right before we jumped on the call here. We'd love for you to jump into the chat and share with us what your degree was from Duquesne University. For example, my bachelor's degree is in marketing communications. So go ahead and jump into the chat. We'd love to see. Kelly, history. Joe, BS International Business. Patricia, Bachelor of Music. Double, bass performance. Lori, business. Stephen, journalism. Audrey, communications, undergrad, management graduate. Janelle, good afternoon to you as well. BS in perfusion technology, MS in leadership and business ethics. Gennaro economics. Beatrice, BS in business. Clayton, MS multimedia technology. Did I miss anybody? All right. We have a great mix of folks on the call today, so thank you so much for weighing in. Here we go. Sarah and Audrey and I hope that this quote resonates with you because it sets the tempo for what we're about to talk about today. And it goes like this. Don't ask what the world needs. Instead, ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. That's the game, right? That's the game that we're playing. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a less than 7-second world. where first impressions matter. Business Insider says it takes only 7 seconds to create a solid first impression of who you are. And ExecuNet says it takes only 6.5 seconds to form an opinion when scanning a resume. Google Research says that you only get 2 seconds or less, in fact, and that the more concise your message, the stronger the connection is going to be. Forbes suggests that 1/10 of a second is all it takes to start determining core traits like trustworthiness. And LinkedIn says sometimes you get as little as 50 milliseconds. It's almost like a blink or a glance. So what is the common thread for all of this? It's digital. We live in a digital world where mobile is ruling pretty much everything that we do. And engagement expectations have shifted for leaders like us. So as a leader, our audiences expect us to do the messaging for them. So they expect us to have messaging that's clear, that's distinctive, that's consistent. And then users of our message expect it to be personalized, psychographically. If someone lands on your website or your LinkedIn profile, or they're looking at your resume, they're asking themselves, are you in tune with my IAO, my interests, my attitudes, my opinions? Have you taken my personality into account? Have you taken my lifestyle into account? And new contacts in particular expect a very compelling story. They're searching. They want a quote to read from you. They want a video of various links to sample who you are and what you stand for. They want to be convinced that your brand is on purpose and then it resonates with their purpose. And brands that fail to meet these expectations, these shifting expectations, are actually at risk. So I'm going to take a deep breath and get through this sentence on the bottom here. So you're probably wondering at this point, how do leaders like us position, message, and brand to earn trust regardless of device that communicates clearly, distinctively, and consistently what your brand stands for now and in the future, which stands out amongst a competitive set in a very personalized way that moves the audience to action in 7 seconds or less? It can be done. And it requires a shift from the old world messaging to new world messaging. The old world is complex, many layers. It feels a little generic, maybe caught up in a sea of sameness. It's different messaging on multiple assets, whereas the new world, which is what we're going to talk about shifting you to today, is clear. It's simplified. It's quickly understood. It's specific. It stands out amongst a competitive set. And most importantly, and this is probably the most important piece in this entire presentation, is that there's one strong statement that aligns with your core values, that enables trustworthiness, that communicates that you are on purpose. So let's go to the chat again. I'd love to get your feedback. If someone asks, and just drop a number into the chat, if someone asks you, so what do you do? Can you answer it with conviction? We'll use a Likert scale. 5 is absolutely, I have conviction, I can answer it, I know what to say every time to anyone in any place, and 1 is not so much. So the question again is this. If someone asks you, so what do you do? Can you answer it with conviction? What's your conviction level on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest? So go ahead and drop into the chat. All right, I see the chat coming in. See some numbers coming in here. Janara is a 5, Janelle is a 4, Martin is a 4, Joseph is a 4, Sarah is a 4, Laura is a 3, Kelly is a 4, Martin is a 5, Patricia is a 3, Beatrice is a 3.5. I love you, Beatrice. I love you. Joyce is a 4, Christopher is a 3, Janelle is a 4, Clayton is a 4, Stephen is a 2, Darcy is a 5. Excellent. Well, wherever you are on that scale, I can assure you that this ETA process that I'm going to share with you today is going to either help you move up in the Likert scale, or it's going to validate where you already are. And it's called the ETA process. And what ETA stands for is excavate, tell, and affirm. I think we can all agree that the automotive industry is a fiercely competitive set. And when you think about automobile companies, they spend millions of dollars on branding. And recently, they spent millions of dollars being on purpose in their branding. Mercedes-Benz says they stand for luxury, Volvo says they stand for safety, and BMW says they stand for performance. Why do they spend so much money being on purpose? Because they have learned that on-purpose brands are outperforming their competitors in the stock market by 120%. So it's not woo-woo or ethereal anymore. There's hard numbers behind it. I'm taking you to a poll that was done by Trusted Media Brands. They do it every year. What you'll see on the left-hand side is a list of company brands. They're in alphabetical order. And what I'd like you to do is scan that list, and I'd like you to pick one. And the one that you're picking is one that you can absolutely trust to recommend to someone in your inner circle, like someone that you can't mess up, that you trust this brand so much that you're okay with recommending it to your family, your friends, your trusted advisors. So pick one and drop that into the chat. I see it lighting up here. Thank you, everyone. Gennaro Hershey, yes, Pennsylvania Hershey. Janelle Subaru, Kelly Bear, Laura Subaru, Beatrice Subaru. There's a pattern here. Martin PBS, Patricia Subaru, Martin PBS, Joseph PBS, Christopher PBS, Clayton Bear Paint, Kevin PBS, Joyce PBS. We definitely have a pattern here. Interesting. Great. Anybody else? Wonderful. So now what I'd like to ask you to drop into the chat is just a phrase, a sentence, or maybe one or two reasons why. Why did you choose that one over the others? Because Trusted Media Brand says that hundreds of thousands of people trust these brands. But there's a reason why you chose that one. If you could, go ahead and drop in the chat why. Why Hershey? Why Bear? Why PBS? Why Subaru? Subaru was one of my clients for a long time, in good faith and full disclosure, so I'm very biased. Laura says safety and reliability. Yes, Janelle, we own a Subaru with over 100K miles. Yes, my entire family owns Subarus. We're a Subaru family. Joseph, credibility. Martin, non-commercial. Patricia, quality. Clayton, have used in home. Excellent. Gennaro Hershey, from experience with the product. Bear Paint, from Kelly, designer quality at Home Depot prices. Well said, Kelly. Well done, you. Laurie, public reputation. That's a good one. Christopher, cultural and journalistic integrity. Now, there's a powerful word. Laurie said reputation. Christopher said integrity. Thank you for that input. Joyce, long-standing history of unbiased information and entertainment. Oh, yeah, that sounds like PBS. Martin, great entertainment. Beatrice, trustworthy Subaru, 220,000 miles on an 18-year vehicle. I think we can all say that as Subaru owners. Awesome. Notice, and I love doing this poll over and over and over again. Notice that no one dug into the weeds in terms of like feature functionality. It has to do with integrity, with being entertained. All of it has to do with an emotive response. It's fascinating, isn't it? And what does this have to do with our personal brands? Research from Capgemini says that 82% of people will make buying decisions based on emotion, whether they're choosing a company brand or if they're choosing to work with you. And that means our messaging needs to convey an emotive response. You probably know Robin Roberts. She's the host of Good Morning America. Trusted Media Brands does this survey with individuals too. And what I love about the survey is they take the top 10 and they ask them the same question. And the question is this: what do you stand for? Robin Roberts says she stands for good citizenship. Dr. Lefkowitz says he stands for enthusiastic science. And Tony Dungy says he stands for winning attitude. And I love their stories that they share. Robin Roberts said when she was a little girl, her mother used to always say, anybody can be a good citizen. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what status you are in society. You can always be the one to take the shopping cart that's sitting in the middle of the street and put it back in its little cage. Be a good citizen. And she got very filled up about it when she was doing commentary for the Olympics. She mentioned it again. She said, I've had an amazing career and I've done so many things. She said, whether I was a little girl, if I was playing basketball, or I was calling games on ESPN, or now I'm on Good Morning America, now I'm in the Olympics, she said, I feel like now I'm becoming a good citizen of the world, a good steward of cultures around the world. She got very emotional about it. It was really kind of cool because it's what she stands for, good citizenship. Dr. Lefkowitz, he's in his 70s now. He's a cardiologist, an internal medicine doctor. And if you look at a video of him when he's 28, when he won the Nobel Prize for chemistry, and now in his 70s, there's very little difference. He's still as effusive about science as he was then. So if you have a chance to Google him or, hear him speak on YouTube, please do it. You will drink the Kool-Aid and you will become enthusiastic too. Tony Dungy is a football coach. And for those of you who have read his book, Quiet Strength, he got his start in Pittsburgh. And you'll also know that his son committed suicide. And he talks about it in the book. And that's where he gained his purpose. So out of that tragedy came purpose for him, where he decided that it was going to be his mission to convey a winning attitude, not just on and off the football field, but in wins and losses in life. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to ask you to think, going back to the opening remarks, think about only yourself. And let's pretend that your photo is in there, is in that mix. And let's pretend Trusted Media Brands is going to call you today, this afternoon, and they're going to ask you one question. What do you stand for? What would you say? How would you answer that question? To know the answer to that question is very powerful and profound. So this is a yes or no question. Yes, no, maybe, I should say. Yes, no, maybe. If you wouldn't mind going into the chat, can you articulate what you stand for in just a few seconds? Go ahead into the chat and drop it in. Yes, no, maybe, yes, no, maybe. Let's see. We got a couple yeses. Beatrice, yes. Janelle, yes. Kelly, yes. Christopher, maybe. Thank you, Christopher. Kevin, yes. Martin, yes. Stephen, no. Okay. Laura, yes. Martin, yes. All right. So Stephen, we this presentation is for you. And for those who have said yes, we're going to go deeper. So thank you for the transparency. All right, moving on. If you're having some trouble or you want to validate where you are, there is this wonderful little tool. A friend of mine has developed it. It will cost you $9. And if you go to the website, it's www.onpurpose.me. It's an assessment. It will take you about 10 minutes. And it will take you through 3 modules where it will serve you a series of words. And you have to pick one or the other that resonates with you. And then based on the one you pick, it'll serve 2 more. There's an algorithm behind it, and it'll keep serving based on if-then logic. And it will take you to, at the end, a 2-word purpose statement. And it's really helpful in helping your thought process as a great thought starter. Onpurpose.me, go ahead and try that on. So we talked about Excavate. Excavate is the first step in the ETA process. Now we're going to talk about Tell. Tell involves 10 questions, and that means we need to start telling our story. Once we excavated what we stand for and our purpose, then it's all about telling stories around it. I'm going to offer to you 10 questions. I'm going to go through them now, and then Sarah and Audrey are going to do us the favor of, after this presentation, they're going to send you a compendium that has all of these questions so that you can go ahead and pour yourself a delicious cup of coffee and go through them on an even deeper level. So here's question number 1. Tell me about you. What's your story? Are you controlling the narrative? So let's pretend that we were live and in person, and we had a round table at a conference. And Sarah, Audrey, and I were at this table, and we asked, tell me about you. And everyone went around the table and told their story. And then let's pretend that we came back tomorrow and we had coffee again together. And Sarah and Audrey and I, we asked, tell me about you again. Would you tell the same story? Would you say the same thing? Would it be similar? So tell me about you. Seems like a simple question, but spend some time answering that. It's going to help you tell your story about your brand. Question number 2 is, what is your current state and your future state? Folks love to hear not only about where you are now, but where you're going. What are your aspirations? Where are you headed? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? People like to latch onto things in terms of your mission, where you're headed. It's so exciting. Number 3 is a timed test, 1 minute. So Audrey and Sarah and I, we invite you to time yourself. Put a stopwatch onto your mobile and give yourself a minute to write down 3 to 5 of your core strengths. And if you find this to be an impossible question, think about what other people have told you are your core strengths. And if they can be quantified, even better. Number 4, what are your proudest accomplishments? And this doesn't necessarily have to be about your career. It could be at any point in your life, because what we're looking for is why you're proud. That speaks volumes about your personal brand. Arguably, question number 5 is the most important question in the entire pack. And this is, what is the big relevant change in the world that you are passionate about? For example, Ariana Huffington, who is the CEO of Thrive Global, is on a mission to address our endemic issue of lack of sleep throughout our society, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. So choose carefully, think carefully, because you'll need to lobby for it, to rally for it, raise money for it, go to the Hill and pass bills about it. What's the big relevant change that you are passionate about? Question number 6 is, what is your favorite quote? Maybe it's a mantra that you live by, and think carefully, because Sarah and Audrey and I, we're going to ask you to tattoo it on the inside of your arm. So it needs to be something that's really meaningful to you and something that you want other people to know means a lot to you and to others that you come in to communicate with. Question number 7, your 3 core values. And we recommend narrowing it down to a long list down to 3 and sleep on it before finalizing. We're actually going to share in just a couple of slides a wonderful tool that will help you identify your 3 core values very, very quickly. And it's free. And it's one of the best tools I've seen around. Question number 8 is your swan song. A swan song is defined as a person's final public performance or professional appearance before retirement. Think about it as a TED Talk topic, and think about it too in near term. So again, let's say that you're going to do your TED Talk tomorrow. What would that topic be? And only you can talk about that topic and create an emotive response using telling your stories. Don't dismiss the power of this question. Who are your heroes? They could be deceased, they could be living, and I have worked with CEOs, presidents of corporations, multinationals, where the cartoon character has been the key to helping them tell their story, because what we're getting to is why. And number 10, of course, is, what's your extraordinary why? It's hard to start with this question for a lot of people. We almost have to go through that series to get to number 10. Another way of asking it is, why do you exist to serve? Folks are probably familiar with Simon Sinek. His TED Talk, Start With Why, has been viewed over 44 million times, which we can safely make the assumption that people care about that topic. They care about why. They care about your why. If you haven't seen it, Simon Sinek, How Great Leaders Inspire Action, Start With Why. It's really, really good. It's worth the 18 minutes. And you can Google it at any time. So step 1 was excavate. Step 2 was tell, and now step 3 is affirm. And the way to affirm is to anchor with assessments. I'm a huge fan of assessments, any way that you can assess. It could be informal, where you go to your trusted advisors and ask them, what do you think are my core strengths? Or it could be very formal. There's so many assessments out there where you become acutely aware of your core strengths, because we believe that knowing oneself is true genius. Here are a couple of suggestions. These will also be in your compendium with hot links if you would like to go ahead and try them on. Some of them are free. Some of them do have a cost associated with them. For those who are interested in core values, you'll see bullet number 2, the Core Value Index. It is a free online tool. It helps you understand your unchanging motivational desires. It's how you're wired to contribute to the world, and it will help you identify your core values. It's really robust, and it's one of the best that I've seen. It's called the CVI. There's a hot link that's going to be in your compendium. You can also Google it. I highly recommend that one. So I'm going to pause here. I'm just curious for the folks on the line. When was the last time that you took an assessment about you, where you gave yourself the gift of identifying your core strengths or learning more about oneself? Was it a month ago, within the past 3 months, within a year? Go ahead and drop into the chat. When was the last time that you took a science and evidence-based assessment like this? Kevin, 5 to 6 years ago. Let's see, Martin. Whoops, I lost it. Here we go. 5 to 6 years ago was Kevin. Martin was in the past 6 months. Thank you. Jaharo, never. Okay. Janelle, question, thoughts on Enneagram tests? Oh, we will answer that in the Q&A. That's a great question, Janelle. So Sarah and Audrey, can we capture that and address that when we get to Q&A? Thank you for that. Joseph, 2017 Myers-Briggs. I'd love to know what your 4 letters are. I'm an ETNJ. Jeffrey, 2020. Christopher, never. Kelly, years ago. Joyce, 4 to 5 years ago. Let's see, Laura, truly can't recall. No worries. Beatrice, approximately 5 months ago. Martin, never. Janelle, 3 years ago. Let's see, Janelle, 3 years ago. Patricia, 3-ish years. I love you, Patricia. Clayton, 4 months. Stephen, so many years ago, I can't remember. Janelle, taken during Duquesne University's Emerging Leaders Program. Oh, great plug. I swear that Sarah and Audrey and I did not plant that seed, but thank you, Janelle, for weighing in. Appreciate that. For those who have taken assessments, one last poll, because we are 1 minute ahead of schedule. Could you go ahead and drop in the chat an assessment that you would recommend to the group that you've taken, for those who may have not taken an assessment or for those who haven't taken one in a couple of years? I really like StrengthsFinder. I really like the CVI. Gallup Strengths, Jeffrey, thank you. It is awesome. You will be served your top 5 strengths. It's really good. MBTA, Martin, yes, that's a good one. Janelle, DISC and StrengthsFinder. Kelly, Insights, yeah, okay, very good. Any others? I'll call your attention to this last one on the screen, the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode. If you're feeling like you're butting heads lately, or you're having conflict, or maybe a little of anxiety, this is a really good one, and it's worth the $45. It will enhance your self-awareness about how you handle conflict. It is so eye-opening. When I took it, I looked at the 5 modalities. You will be grouped, weighted in terms of how you handle conflict. Do you compete? Are you a collaborator? Do you compromise? Do you avoid? Do you accommodate? And I thought mine was going to be higher in the competitive scale, and it was really low. So I learned that and when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? I really don't care if I win. I really don't. I would rather collaborate. I was super high on the collaborative scale. So it was really, really interesting, and it made me step back and think, that's how I handle conflict. That's how I go about it. So something to think about. Thanks, everybody, for weighing in. We're going to move on now. All right. Moving on. Here we go. Anchor with affiliations. This is a technique that's used by elite athletes to perform at the highest levels. And what I would ask you to do is to take a look at the list on the right-hand side of the page and pick one. There's a couple here. Pick one for you, because again, this is about you today. You're going to spend 45 minutes just on you and nobody else. Pick one, and then answer that question. And I'd like you to drop it in the chat, because there is something about writing it down that makes it, when you declare it, so it will be. So grab it off the right-hand side and drop it in the chat, one of those phrases, and see if you can answer it. I'll be very curious, and Sarah and Audrey and I are going to be looking out for those. Oh, my video is a little dark. Oh, it is. Pardon me one moment. All right. I think
There's
it's better
light.
now. Let there be light. All right. Kelly Poe, I lose all sense of time when I'm creating content. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So great, so great. Janelle, I am often sought out for assistance with budgeting and goal setting. Ooh, yes, that's crystal clear. Well done, you. Joseph, I am often sought out for advice and opinions. Excellent. Martin, I am often sought out for midlife career advice, career pivots. Oh, you and I need to talk, Martin. We have a lot in common. Excellent. So choose one, I would say. Oh, here we go. We have another one coming in. Martin, people send me thank you notes for tutoring students. Excellent. That is transformational, changing lives. Christopher, I'm often sought out for difficult situations. Superb. Gennaro, I am very good in the world at analyzing and thinking through ideas, processes, etc. Excellent. Well done. I would take this and give it some windshield time when you're walking the dog. You know, don't stress out over it, but when you start to anchor with affirmations, you start to own it, and then you kind of feel it in your bones, and then it really becomes part of your brand, and then you do actually become sought after. Clayton says he loses all sense of time when I work on a project that I care about. Yeah, well done. Excellent. I can attest to this anchoring with affirmations. My brother is a world champion rower, and he was, if I might brag for a moment, he was asked by the world team to compete for the United States of America when he was 28 years old. Now, it sounds young, but it actually isn't, because at the time, most of the folks that he was competing with were 17, 18, and 19 years old. But my brother at the time was the fastest in the world. And he had this complex, this imposter syndrome complex about, oh my gosh, I could never compete with these 17, 18, and 19 years old. I'm too old. So he started anchoring with affirmations. I'm the best in the world at rowing the 4-man crew. And he used to say it every day. He used to put music around it. He got this technique from his visualization coach. And I actually I watched him on that day show up. And not only did he win, but they blew the competition out of the water. They were so far back, it was crazy. He was the stroke in the boat, which was the strongest man in the boat. And it was really fun to watch. And he attributes it to affirmations. He said he showed up that day where he just knew that he was a world champion, and the race was just a formality. So to have that kind of conviction, that's what I want for you. I want that level of conviction for you. Why all this? The ETA, what happens? ETA framework, you pull it all together into your one true north. And as I mentioned, Sarah and Audrey are going to share with you a compendium so that you can do this work after our webinar today. And I beg of you, before you do any of these things, apply for a board seat, revise your CV, develop a one sheet for your biography, put up a website, do your LinkedIn profile, if you're going to go speak, maybe develop a business plan or create a video or maybe conduct an interview with the media or lead a new team, I beg of you, do this work. Fill out the compendium when we send it over. It's really going to help you. It's the ETA process. Step 1 is all about excavate, position with purpose. Step 2 is to tell stories to create impact. Step 3 is to affirm your brand genius with conviction. This new world narrative is achievable. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples, and then we're going to go to the Q&A, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So I will share with you, this is Richard. He's the CEO, and he never had a resume. He got a job right out of the Air Force with a company called Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he just kept moving up the ranks, and someone would sponsor him and move him up the ranks. He never had to apply for a job, and he actually became CEO. He was there 46 years. He retired, and 3 years after his retirement, he's still very young, he wanted to get back into the game. And he didn't know how to talk about himself. This was a CEO. This is a highly accomplished PhD CEO. And he really struggled about what he stood for. He struggled to tell his story, and he was really struggling with affirming what he really was good at because he had done so much. He was good at so many things. It was hard to narrow the field. So we applied the ETA process, and we came up with his 2-word purpose statement, which is imparting wisdom, and we used that as the theme in order to tell and affirm his story, and it really came along beautifully. Not too long after we did our work together, he landed consulting assignments that he loved. He was investing in companies, and he also acquired a paid board seat. And his trigger question for him is, what was your 2-word purpose statement? He said no one in his entire career had ever asked him that. And when we finally figured it out, we built his whole brand around it. He tells a really funny story where he went to a conference and he was meeting with a healthcare tech company, and the young millennial CEO of the tech company pulled him up on his mobile and looked at him on LinkedIn, and his LinkedIn profile had maybe 50 words on it. And he said, dude, what do you do? He said, I see you worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield for 46 years, but what do you do? Are you a finance guy? Are you a sales and marketing person? I mean, do you like to raise up, like, what do you do? I can't figure out what you do. And he said that was the most humbling experience of his life. And that's when we came to work together. His brand is totally turned around because of the ETA process. And you can do it too. This is Catherine, Chief Operating Officer. And she is what we call a card-carrying introvert. She doesn't like to talk about herself. She feels salesy. She's uncomfortable. It almost feels like she's bragging. And during the COVID, she was laid off with 400 other folks in her division. And when she sent her resume over to me, she said, I feel like my resume, these are her words, my resume is lost in a sea of sameness and that it's perfunctory. It just doesn't have any oomph to it. There's no emotive response. So we applied the ETA process, and her trigger question was proudest accomplishments. And when she started talking about her proudest accomplishments, this introvert, I couldn't get her to stop talking. She just kept talking about how she loves to engage the workforce. She runs call centers for managed care companies, and she loves to engage folks in their work. She likes to teach them and train them and lift them up and move them on and promote them and have them do focus groups and do dialogue. And so we built her brand story around that. Shortly after, she had an interview with a CEO, which is a coffee. And during the interview, he said, Kathy, I don't need to hear anymore. When you tell me your story about an engaged workforce, he said, I'm hooked. He said, you're the person I need for my company. So he called HR and said, do not look anymore. I have found the person for this role. And it was all about, she just was able to tell her story comfortably and not in a salesy sort of way. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for everybody on this call too. All right, in the issue of time, this is a gent. He is a family business consultant. And the reason I'm bringing him up is he went to Duquesne. He's a Duquesne grad. He was a Sheik, for those of you who knows the Sheik. I was an Alpha Phi, and we become really good buds. And we actually connected over our Duquesne connection. And he was very skeptical of this ETA process. He's an engineer, and he's a business process improvement person. So he likes things focused and structured and logical. And he was trying to figure out how to stand out in a crowded market. He's a business consultant. And what we did is we went through the ETA process, and his trigger question was, "What's your why?" And he said, "My God, I've been out and about, graduated from Duquesne so many years ago, and I still don't know my why. I can't believe this." And we did finally figure it out. His why is all about helping family businesses excel. So we came up with a tagline for his company called Ensuring Your American Dream. And from there, things just took off. This was 2 years ago we did this work. You can see on the slide, you can see he's actually adopted that tagline. He puts it on everything for his company called the Pathfinder Group. For him, it truly is about helping business owners protect their business, create a succession plan, run their family business as well, the business and the family. And he's on fire. So the ETA process really helped him. And I love that he's a Duquesne grad. All right. So we are going to, we're 3 minutes ahead of schedule. You're going to be receiving a compendium from Sarah and Audrey after this call. It's our gift to you, and we trust and hope that you find it to be very, very helpful. I'm going to pause here for any questions. Any questions that you would like to ask? Sarah, Audrey, would you like to go ahead and lead the way?
You bet. We'll be glad to. Let's start with a couple of the pre-submitted questions and let people think about what they're coming up with other questions. Kelly, who's on today, you kind of had alluded to this a little bit, but asked, what's the most effective way to use social media to promote your brand? You talked a little bit about LinkedIn, but she was asking more about post frequency and perhaps what you put on your profile that is successful.
That's a great question. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I get that question all the time. And my recommendation for you to try on is this. Start with one platform. You have to start somewhere. Start with one platform and start with 3 metrics. So for example, LinkedIn, since we're all business folks and we all get checked out on LinkedIn in terms of folks they'll go and see who you are, what you do, what you stand for on LinkedIn. Start there. Use the ETA process. Create your positioning and messaging. And then for 1 quarter, for 3 months, monitor the metrics. And those metrics are connections. Have you increased your connections? Also, followers. How many are following you? And then finally, views. I would recommend try on a post or 2, post a quote, post something that's meaningful to you, post something that you think is helpful, and then see how many views you get and benchmark it from day 1 of the quarter, and then 3 months later, look at it again. But I would say start with, don't get overwhelmed with, I have to be on Instagram and I got to be on Facebook and I got to be out there on all the social. Just start there and see what feedback you get.
Great. Thank you so much for that advice. And then kind of along those lines, this was another question that was pre-submitted from Michael. What measurements would you use to correctly evaluate your brand and its performance?
Yes, same thing. I would say start somewhere. Start with one piece and 3 key metrics, and give yourself 3 months. And you will be amazed at what you learn when you try it on, and you can do so at your own pace. You'll learn about how to interact with the market and interact with your beloved avatar. Beloved avatar is basically your target audience. And I use the word beloved very deliberately. If you think about someone who is beloved to you, you think about them all the time and you want to do anything for them. You want to help them. I mean, you're eager to help them. If you know your beloved avatar and you connect with them on one social media platform, you have three metrics: connections, followers, and views that you're looking at. Start there for 1 quarter, monitor, and then see what you learn and move on to the next platform or increasing your volume of telling your story. Thank you, Michael, for that question.
All right, we just had something come in from Martin. Obviously, he's saying what a great session this is. So his question is, do you find that your compendium works well for younger folks, especially college age, who is the group that he works with the most?
Oh gosh, Martin, I love you. We should talk offline. I get this all the time. Oh gosh, we could probably spend the next couple of hours on this. So I've mentioned beloved avatar. I could do a day-long session on just beloved avatar. And as a marketer, I've been a CEO, I've been a chief marketing officer. What I have found has worked well is when companies and individuals niche down. And what I mean by that is we have to pick our spots. We can't boil the ocean, if you will. We can't serve the entire world. We want to, but we have to niche down. So for example, my niche is executive leaders. I work with CEOs, SVPs, business owners, and consultants, specifically in the healthcare space. So I have niched way, way down. And that's who I spend most of my time with because I love it. They are my beloved avatar. I love them. Does that mean that I don't work with folks outside of healthcare? Of course not. Of course I do. Does that mean that I don't work with mid-careerists? Of course I do. Does that mean I don't work with high school and college students? Yes, I absolutely do. But my niche, my bullseye, is executive leaders, and then I have concentric circles. So to answer your question directly, Martin, and thank you for asking, the compendium works for anyone who is interested in excavating their brand, knowing their why, wants to tell their story, and needs to affirm it. So yeah, and I usually work with folks 16 years of age and older. The oldest person that I've worked with this year, he was 74. And he had more energy than all of us put together. I mean, he had the energy. I mean, honestly, I had no idea he was 74. I thought he was in his early 50s. So it can work for anyone. Thank you. Thank you. Great question.
Well, I have a feeling, Mary, you'll be hearing from Martin again, and you guys will have
I
your
would
side.
love that. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Just based on the feedback in the chat.
Yeah. So going back to the question that was asked earlier when you were talking about different personality tests and strengths finder and things like that, Janelle had asked for your thoughts on the Enneagram tests. So I don't know if you want to speak to that here.
Oh, the Enneagram. Yes. Here are my thoughts, and I would love to, get your thoughts too. I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram, and you can take the Enneagram online for free. And then there's also a newsletter that you can subscribe to for just your number, which will serve to you every single day, just a little tip or a trick on, how to show up in the world, which is pretty good. I read mine every day. I find the explanation of there's 9 modules in the Enneagram, and it can start to get really complex. So if you have the time and you're really interested in doing deep dives, it does take a bit of work to really understand the nuances. So it's not one that I recommend immediately because it is deep and wide and complex. However, if you're interested in deep and wide and complex, go for it. And honestly, the assessment is complimentary, and it's kind of interesting to see just where you fall on the scale. my number is 7 and I am an enthusiast. And I can validate that is very true about me. I'd be curious to see what your number is. Can you drop it in the chat? Now I need to know. I have to know now.
Thanks for answering her question. And Janelle, thanks for submitting it for sure. So we'll see.
Oh, you haven't taken an assessment. Oh, excellent. Oh, you'll have to hit me on LinkedIn and tell me which one. And then I'll send you the link to the newsletter and you can try that on too.
So here's another one that was pre-submitted from someone who says they've done a lot, so much that how can I describe myself as a subject matter expert and relay it in 7 seconds or less?
Yeah, great one. Sounds like Richard, my CEO. I have a little goodie for you, and Sarah and/or Audrey is going to drop that into the chat. And we, Richard and I, and many of my clients, we spend a lot of time using this template. It's a thought starter. It's something for you to try on. We're going to drop it into the chat right now. And what it is, it's just one sentence, it's one line, it's one phrase. And what I call it is a transformation statement template. And it goes like this. It's I, action word, my beloved avatar, how to, do what they want to accomplish so they can have the result or transformation. So for example, for me, in terms of revealing genius, I empower CEOs, SVPs, business owners, and consultants to not only identify their why, but articulate at what they are best in the world so that they can have impact in the areas of their expertise. It's just an example. And I do a lot of these workshops throughout the year where we work on just that transformation statement. So that's my gift to you. And I encourage you to take that and try that on. When you nail that down, it will help you take years and years and years and years of experience and kind of solidify it down into at what you are the best in the world. It takes some thought. I'm not going to lie to you, but once you've got it, it's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that with everyone, and you'll see that in the chat. And if anybody misses it right now and needs to come back to it, let us know, and we'll be glad to send it along to you. And then I guess unless anybody else has other questions, I'll end with this one that was submitted beforehand. How do you authenticate yourself when you view your role as a support to others?
Yeah, I would hearken back to the exercise that we did. There was a slide that had those 5 fill in the blank ellipsis questions. I would suggest pick one of them and really own it, like really, really own it. So let folks know, regardless of where you are, if you're in a support role, if you're in a leadership role, and vice versa, and really own at what you are the best in the world in an effusive and enthusiastic manner. And then you'll suddenly become the go-to for that.
Fantastic. Well, Mary, thank you so much for your great presentation today and for answering all the questions for our participants, and of course for all the resources that you're providing in your follow-up. You are definitely continuing the mission of Duquesne by serving God, by serving our alumni and our students and others every day. So we certainly appreciate that. Thank you to all of our alumni and friends for attending today's Alumni Insights. In a follow-up email, all participants will receive a copy of the recording of this program for reference and sharing, so please feel free to share those. If you or an alumnus that you know is interested in presenting an Alumni Insights webinar, the link to the presenter application will be in that email as well. So I just want to say have a great day, everyone, and as always, go Dukes. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.